focus on what is happening in the market as well. Now, the biggest, of course, frustration with many Kenyans has been the taxes or the tax notification from KRA. Even as the taxman's deadline for tax arrears to be paid up looms, scores of recipients of the demand notices are crying foul. Now, according to some taxpayers, the Kenya Revenue Authority has failed to accurately transfer taxpayers' information from old manual or semi-automated platforms to the current iTax system. While the tax agency is obligated to ensure it collects all dues or to it, it is imperative that it also addresses the concerns raised by various taxpayers. It will be totally unfair to lump penalties on taxpayers if it turns out that they are not to blame. Though KRA insists that it is only tidying up taxpayers' ledgers in its system, tax advisory firms insist that tax demand letters to their clients have been piling up for the past 3 weeks. They argue that the taxman's move to use VAT auto-assessment to detect inconsistencies between purchase and sales invoices declared in the VAT returns has not been properly configured, hence the discrepancies. We urge KRA to ensure that its tax collection efforts do not cause panic and outcry among taxpayers in order for the taxman to increase its revenue collection targets and rope in more people by widening the tax net. It should make sure that the environment it operates in is cordial. It will be defeating its own goals were it to be viewed as monstrosity by the Kenyan taxpayers. So we shall be focusing on that bit, of course, and looking at the state of the economy as well. We know also the fuel prices are up again. So what does it also contend for many of the Kenyans as well? They always say pain at the pump, but this has a cascading effect on a lot of issues here in the country as well. Also, that particular relief from electricity tariffs as well as far as the manufacturing sector is concerned. We shall be looking at that. We'll be having our panelists here momentarily. Of course, we'll be holding court this morning with the governor of Laikipia. This is His Excellency Nderitu Mureithi. Also eagerly waiting for Sanchem Gutpar, who is the chairman of the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. We shall be joined also by Patrick Obath, who is the Vice President of KEPSA Foundation, also a board member of International Chamber of Commerce, and as well will be joined much later by Gabriel Negatu, who is the Director General of African Development Bank. So you can also get to drive a show with me. You can hit us on Twitter. AM Live NTV is our Twitter handle, AM Live NTV, or profile name on Facebook, and 20686 is our SMS portal. Again, head over to our Twitter handle, which is AM Live NTV. AM Live NTV is a profile name on Facebook, and 20686 is our SMS portal. I can see my guests are still walking in this morning. They will walk to their seats. But as we are doing that, also let's take a keener look on what is happening on the dailies. Ready or not, here come with the dailies. Right, this is what is on the front page of the Daily Nation. Obado lured out of Ruto function and locked up. Police probing ownership of 3 out of 8 guns found in his home. You can see that clearly. This story continues on page 5 of the Daily Nation this morning. And on top there, the flagger reads, Migori governor also being investigated in relation to 2 billion shillings scam. That story, as you can see, it is on page 5 of the Daily Nation this morning. Also 10 days in custody for Quack. Finally, in the slummers, that is what we have here. Mr. James Ndichu Mugo, Elias Mugo was Mugo Wairimo at the Milimani Law Court in Nairobi yesterday. He is accused of running a private medical facility without an appropriate license and was detained for 10 more days pending investigations. Raila and Waiguru bury the hatchet is another story on the front page of the Daily Nation this morning. Opposition leader Raila Odinga and Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru, who have not seen eye to eye for years of political differences, buried their hatchet yesterday and announced the forging of a new friendship in the interest of national development. The two met for 2 hours at Mr. Odinga's private office or offices at Capitol Hill in Nairobi, during which they discussed their war of words and legal battles over the loss of funds at the National Youth Service during Ms. Waiguru's tenure at the Devolution Ministry. Mr. Odinga had accused Ms. Waiguru of overseeing the plunder of NYS in 2015, leading to a defamation suit against him by the governor. And this story continues on page 6 of the Daily Nation this morning. A quick look now at the Standard. And this is your splash today, what you're waking up to. Of course, all about Obado fleeing, Obado held over mystery guns. More trouble? Embattled Migori governor arrested in the basement of a five-star hotel in Nairobi as he tries to leave in a taxi. The story also is tucked away on page 4 of Standard this morning. And you can see also number of Seske pistol found in Obado's home. That is 5 in Lavington and 3 at his Migori home. 8 a.m. Obado arrives at Hilton Hotel to attend a donors meeting. At 11 a.m. police officers arrive at the Hilton in 3 cars. 2 p.m. Obado leaves his seat and walks to the lift and heads to the basement. Also, 2:10 p.m. police walk out of the basement with Obado and lead him to their car. 2:14 p.m. a taxi he was taking drives out of basement. 2:40 p.m. Obado arrives at the Special Crimes Prevention Unit offices in Nairobi. 3:45 p.m. he's driven from Special Crimes Prevention Unit offices to DCI headquarters on Kiambu Road. And you have all the gritty details, as I've mentioned, also on page 4 of the Standard. And also Obado's timeline. In September 21st, detectives arrest Obado over killing of Sharon Otieno. Also on September the 24th, Obado presented to Milimani Law Courts to face murder charges. October the 24th, Obado released on 5 million shillings bail. And it goes on to say also November the 5th, Obado hosts Deputy President William Ruto in Migori in his first public function. And the rest, you have it on page 4 of the Standard this morning. The Star is up next. PSC warns Cabinet Secretary fired for insurance scam. This is an audit report. House Committee recommends tough sanctions for misappropriation of funds. Monica Juma, former AG Muigai, among officials committee once prosecuted. Monica Juma and former AG Muigai among officials committee once prosecuted. And you have this story tucked away on page 4 of the Star this morning. Also, Obado may face fresh graft gun charges is another story that you can also follow on page 6 of the Star this morning. A standalone picture here of Mugo attempting to buy new clothes led to his arrest. Of course, that is just not the caption, but a story. And the caption reads, Quack Dr. James Mugo Ndichu, popularly known as Mugo Wairimo, at the Milimani Law Courts on Wednesday. That story continues on page 2 of the Star this morning. Senators want men who impregnate schoolgirls castrated. That is a punishment they want. Senators want men who impregnate schoolgirls castrated. Also, that story continues on page 6. We have also caught Basil Turi from Runda home over marital feud. That story continues on page 3. And Wipers split over Kalonzo's new role as peace envoy. That story all about party politics on page 7 of the Star. Reconciliation, Waiguru meets Raila, agrees to end libel case. That story on page 8 of the Star this morning. People Daily up next. And this is what you're waking up to. Cops corner arrest Obado at City Hotel. Detectives pounds on Migori governor as he leaves a function presided over by Deputy President William Ruto over 8 guns seized from his homes 2 days ago. This story tucked away on page 6 of the People Daily this morning. And also, AP caught coaching KCSE exam girl in Narok lodging. Officer held set to be charged with offense as government vows to revoke facilities license. This story continues on page 5 of the People Daily. Pump prices hike raises fears over cost of living. Regulator increases cost of fuel by more than 2.30 per litres. That is 2 shillings and 30 cents per litre for the next 1 month. And you can follow the rest of the details on page 17 of the People Daily this morning. Handshake magic connect Raila Waiguru, and you can see that particular handshake as well, cascading down to also some of the governors. This story continues on the news beat on page 9 of the People Daily. And you need to know also what urine says about your health, right? So if you've been not having a very clear urine as you go to, of course, pee, that is what you can see. You can read all the details about this on page 21 of the People Daily this morning. It's all about health matters as well. So let's see what we have also inside other dailies. Taifa Leo, for that matter, I'll try and lift it quickly for you so you can see what it holds for us. This is what is on the front page of Taifa Leo. Where is it? No. Just give me a moment as I get, or I put my ducks in a row here. I just show you what Taifa Leo is holding for us this morning, and this is what is on the front page of Taifa Leo. Speaking up the wrong one, it's jumping, but I will show you that later. Let's just see what the Business Daily is holding for us, and this is what is on the front page of the Business Daily this morning. Weaker shilling hits homes as petroleum rises to 118 shillings, right? That is the price that you can see here. Price increase was mainly driven by September surge in crude prices that raised the cost of importing the oil. The Energy Regulatory Commission said this, and this story continues on page 4 of the Business Daily today. Obado's troubles, right? You can be seen here. This is Migori Governor, of course, Obado, who is at its center. He's being escorted by the Directorate of Criminal Investigations headquarters to the Directorate of Criminal Investigations headquarters on Kiambu Road yesterday. The governor, recently released from remand prison on bond following murder charges against him, was questioned after guns were reportedly found at his Nairobi and Migori homes during a search by the detectives. You have the story continuing on page 6 of the Business Daily this morning. Also, Laikipia set to float first 5 billion shillings county board. We can see here the picture of the governor, Laikipia Governor Nderitu Mureithi, and it says Laikipia County is on course to making history with a proposed sale of 5 billion shillings infrastructure bond to bridge a financing deficit. If successful, the bond, which is to be sold through the National Treasury, will make Laikipia the first devolved unit to raise money from the capital markets. The plan comes at a time when the Controller of Budgets Implementation Report for 2017-2018 financial year indicates that counties raised 32.5 billion shillings from local sources against a target of 49 billion shillings, leaving a deficit of nearly 17 billion shillings. And we have the governor with us here. Of course, I can hear him laughing, right? You'll tell us more about this. Governor Nderitu Mureithi is with us. And of course, also we have Patrick Obath. They've joined us this morning. I was just introducing them. And also we do have with us Gabriel Negatu, who is also the Director General of African Development Bank. We're eagerly waiting also for, I'm drawing a blank, for our next guest here. I'll tell you. This is actually Sanchem Gutper, who is actually the chairman of Kenya Association of Manufacturers, to join us this morning. So that is what we shall be discussing at After Issues this morning as well. But this is what is on the front page of the Business Daily. Please grab a copy. Let's see what is happening across the region as well. We go to Tanzania, where we have the Citizen for us this morning. And this is what is on the front page of the Citizen. Where is the Citizen? All right, I need to go back there and try and lift it quickly. This is what it says this morning. Right? No, I think I'm in the wrong folder. I don't know why actually it's jumping over there. Right, let me try and just do that quickly. Yes, this is what the Citizen is holding for us. Yeah. Okay. A mix up. I'll try and see that for you. I think it picked up the wrong page, but I can show you Mwananchi what is holding for us in Tanzania today. Msaidizi wa Nyerere awasha moto katiba. It says Msaidizi wa Nyerere awasha moto katiba. This is what is on the front page of Mwananchi in Tanzania. And let's see what also we do have on the front page of the Daily Monitor. If you're waking up in Uganda, we see what is holding for us. Teachers ordered not to leave banned schools. Teachers ordered not to leave banned school. Of course, this is in light of what happened in Uganda, where we had 11 pupils actually dying because of inferno. 5 students, 2 guards, 2 residents, and a warden arrested as police interrogate the head teacher and 2 teachers over Sunday inferno. This story continues on page 4 of the Daily Monitor. And also Museveni to tycoons, give me 1 week. Police officers stand guard at the main entrance of Energy Center shopping arcade in downtown Kampala yesterday. President Museveni has met businessmen fighting for the ownership of the city buildings. And you have a story on page 5 of the Daily Monitor in Uganda. Also, NASA's forces peoples to clean floor with tanks. Oh, this is interesting. On page 3 of the Daily Monitor, NASA's forces peoples to clean floor with tanks. You can imagine. This story continues on page 3 of the Daily Monitor. That is a bit gross, and I wonder what also the human rights groups are going to do about this. Also, 2 arrested over attacks on Chinese investors. Government petitioners agree on 8 issues on age limit appeal, and also on regional extra. Court to hear Kwoyelo bail application today. You know all about this. You can read all of this in the Daily Monitor in Uganda. Let's cross over now to Rwanda. AU reforms to take center stage at heads of state meet. AU reforms to take center stage at heads of state meet. Head of state and government of African Union member states will this weekend meet in the Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa in a meeting that will exclusively discuss how the Pan-African body can be reformed to deliver better for Africans. The summit, slated for November the 17th and the 18th, will be chaired by the President Paul Kagame in his capacity as the chairperson of the African Union. This story continues on page 4 of the New Times in Rwanda. Also, government reviews laws on occupational hazards. Construction workers here can be seen for the proposed National Archive Center in Gasabo district. The government has started reviewing laws on occupational hazards and disabilities to reflect current realities. This story continues on page 8 of the New Times in Rwanda. Also, mountain gorillas thrive. You can follow that story, and how 350 billion, actually million US dollars funding will impact family planning. This is from the ongoing conference, of course, on family planning, which has been happening in Rwanda. We continue with, of course, the dailies, and now we also take a keen look on what is on the front page of East African this week. A lesson in profitable sugar production. Learning from the best, farms adopts irrigation mechanization to maximize yields. You have this full report on page 8 and 9 of the East African this week. Testing success. Kwale International Sugar Company Limited started operations 3 years ago, copying the successes of the countries exporting sugar to the region. Now, last year, the farm harvested 290,000 tons of cane and produced 28,000 tons of sugar, contributing 14% of Kenya's production. And this is in light of what they're saying as well, if we may just go to our news bulletin, that some of the sugar companies will be closed because of non-performance. Also, that we shall throw it to our panelists to just get a glimpse of what they have to say as well. Also, DRC, opposition seeks single candidate, plan however not backed by a candidate who opinion polls show is popular. And you can read the rest of the details, all the details on page 13 of the East African this week. Even Uganda struggling to help out refugees, rising numbers and underfunding are taxing its generosity. This is on the Pullout magazine, The Outlook, and you can follow that story on page 21. Was Crane Bank sold for a song by Bank of Uganda? Norway, Netherlands now worry over DFCU Bank getting bad press. You can read all the story on page 31 of the East African. Dangote to buy ARM, become biggest in East Africa. Cement maker only planned to set up factories in 4 countries. And of course, we know that he was frustrated here in the country before. And now there is an opening with ARM, who actually are in a financial pickle right now, and Dangote has taken that handy opportunity to buy this particular farm right now. But the dead hand of bureaucracy before and issues of corruption also prevented Dangote in putting up the cement factory, or his cement factory, here in the country. Also, let's see what is happening on the international dailies as well. Of course, beyond Africa, we go to the Financial Times. UK and Brussels hammer out draft terms of Brexit divorce. This meeting was happening, of course, with the cabinet meetings with Prime Minister Theresa May. May seeks cabinet backing. Northern Ireland backstops approved. Crunch meeting today. The meeting happened. Of course, this is notwithstanding the time difference that we do have. This will be the latest for us from the Financial Times. Also, tech giants spent $115 billion on buybacks as investors lap up Trump tax windfall. Is another story that you want to follow on page, that is on page what? On page 9 of the Financial Times. And Amazon headquarters split 2 ways. There was, of course, a speculation where they're going to set up the headquarters, and Amazon splits its highly contested auction for a second headquarters yesterday, confirming it will build big new offices in New York and Arlington, Virginia, as well as adding a smaller hub in Nashville, Tennessee. That is a story that you want to follow also inside the Financial Times. This is the latest edition. Let's see what we do have also. On other dailies, still beyond Africa, Los Angeles Times, silent Trump avoids usual duties, and wildfires become political tinder as Trump and Brown spar the core reasons behind the escalating toll go ignored. And we can see also here a picture of volunteers carrying water and other supplies from a billionaire's yacht to help residents isolated by the fire closures. This story continues on page 2 of the Los Angeles. And also still, as days pass, hope dims, Paradise waits in anguish amid search for the missing. Paradise was once a place to escape to, located in the Sierra foothills, the rural enclave and surrounding communities were getaways from the Sacramento Valley and the cities of Chico and Oroville. And of course, we know what really happened with the fires as well. Also, still on the front page of the Los Angeles, shooting survivors find comfort in bond. And we can see here Katie Wieki and Justin Veditz embracing at the home of a fellow borderline bar and grill shooting survivor. We've seen things we can't and see, she said. You can follow all that inside the latest edition of Los Angeles. Let's move on to see what we have on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. And this is what is on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. Oil prices plunge as oversupply worries prompt steepest fall since 2015, it says. Crude's decline comes as U.S. production has soared, and now investors are rapidly scaling back their bullish bets in favor of bearish ones. This is what we shall be looking at. U.S. crude in crude oil futures front month contract. Also, you can see the graph here, how it looks right now. And this ramification, we are biting it as well. The cascading effects of it also, we are actually biting it. The prices are up as we saw, and what is on the front page of the Business Daily this morning. And Trump weighs White House revamp. You can follow that story. Cash promises won Amazon. New York, Northern Virginia offered combined $5.5 billion US to secure head offices. That was actually the deal. And UK's May faces Brexit test as officials reach draft deal is another story that you want to follow. McCarthy set to lead House GOP. You can see his picture here. Party pick. House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy will likely be elected Republicans' minority leader to lead his party in a chamber that will be controlled by Democrats. This was by yesterday, so maybe you might be having the latest development with it as well. And the Washington Post for you is up next. With Amazon on the way, region looks ahead. You know now the story. And as company also grows, so does political scrutiny. You can follow this. Hefty incentives in Virginia and New York stars concern. That is all on the front page of the Washington Post. A quick look now at US Today, and this is what is on the front page of USA Today. And that is New York, that is of course NYC and DC area winner Amazon's approval, and you know the latest development as well. And this is what has been captured. Company extend its footprint with HQ's decision. And also Florida still magnet for electoral mayhem. Would you want to live in a war zone? That's a probing question there. Residents wonder how and whether to rebuild. That is a story on the front page of the USA Today. I want to show you also what we do have on the latest edition of the News Week. This is all about technology. It says the technology that will change everything. The technology that will change everything. Block party. So you can actually go on and read the rest of that story inside the latest edition of the Newsweek. Also, Time magazine looks like this. Redder, bluer, Trumpier. The fight is about to get even. This is what is in the latest edition of the Time magazine. Also, let's look on what we have on the front page of the Harvard Business Review. If you've not grabbed the latest, this is how it looks. The end of bureaucracy. How to free your company to innovate. This is on page 50 of the Harvard Business Review. Also, you can get the best performing CEOs in the world 2018. Who are they, right? Who are they? That is on page 37 of the Harvard Business Review. Also, reinventing customer service, another story, and how to cultivate everyday courage. That is a story there by James Detat. inside the latest edition of the Harvard Business Review. This is the November-December edition 2018. Let's move on and see what we have on the front page of The Spectator. Brexit is served. It's hard deal or no deal. Neither option is palatable. This is what James Fawcett thinks. You can read the rest of the details here, but you know the latest development so far, that there is a happy medium as far as Brexit is concerned, with the draft, of course, on as well, and the Cabinet Secretary met yesterday. That is the latest from there. And we finally also can look back home on what we have on, but before I actually come out there, we have also the latest from the National Geographic history. That is Sistine Splendor, Michelangelo's masterpieces. You can read all about the building at bronze god and Rome's Vestal Virgins. If you're a history buff, then this will be also a nice addition for you from the National Geographic as well. Let's finally see what we have at home as well. The Nairobi Law Monthly. Please, if you've not grabbed a copy, make sure you do. In Spice We Trust, almost invariably Uhuru's choice of safe hands are the men from the National Intelligence Service. This is the latest edition of the Nairobi Law Monthly. This is how it looks. Also, we have the front page of the Nairobi Business Monthly as well. And it's all about the Nairobi Security Exchange lately that has been spooked, of course, by investor fleeing as well, unlocking listing on the NSE, underlying issues that must be remedied to make the country's capital markets robust. Of course, for the last almost 10 years, no listing has been happening on the Nairobi Security Exchange as well. And these stories we shall be also looking with the panelists as well. So make sure you grab a copy of the dailies. Let me try and see if I can show you editorial cartoons as well, one or two that we have in the dailies today. And right, this is what Stano has drawn for us today. The maize prices, Ministry of Agriculture, what they've been doling out to farmers. But the farmer is saying, no, I want full. I want full. Right, this is from Stano. And let's see also what has been drawn here by Victor. Now is Kalonzo. Yeah, previously it was Raila Odinga, the special envoy, carrying the bags as well of goodies. But now see what is happening to opposition, right? The opposition that are being nailed in the coffin there. And who is awaiting also maybe, yeah, his luck will also come. That is Musalia Mudavadi, right? He's saying, I'm here too, right? Uhuru, I'm here too as well. So we will see what will be happening. And yeah, Wiper Party also now is crying foul about Kalonzo's also errand boy, of course, title right now. This is what now has been captured by Victor this morning. But those are your stories. Grab a copy of also the Forbes magazine. The Money Man, this is the Forbes Africa, the latest edition as well. Nigeria's pioneer father-son duos Pascal and Uzoma Dozie on the future of banking and building wealth. Also inside cashing in on cannabis, right? This is now becoming a very lucrative, of course, drug, cannabis. And Durban's booming farmers market, African flavors in London. And the world beneath our cities, the business of executive jets as well. Allow me to walk over now to my desk also to show you, just to pick up a copy of the New African as well. How it looks if you've not really grabbed a copy. Russia's new push into Africa is what is on the front page of the New African as well. And you can read the rest of the details. There you can see there Vladimir Putin holding court with President of South Africa, Ramosa, yeah, that is Cyril Ramaphosa. And also we have the African business, high stakes, gambling in Africa. Right, you can read all about this also in the latest edition of the African business as well. Right, let's just buckle down to business with our stories this morning. Just a few of them, then we go back into our news bulletin this morning, where quack Dr. Mugo Wairimo has been detained to allow police to complete investigations into allegations of illegal dealings in his illegal clinic in Nairobi's Kayole estate. Dr. Mugo was arrested Tuesday evening. He had been on the run for almost 2 weeks. Nairobi Senior Resident Magistrate Ben Nzakio allowed the police to hold him for 10 days, saying that the 14 days requested by police is too long a period for detention.
I order that the respondent be taken to hospital for medical attention. And third, the respondent should lodge a formal complaint against the officers who allegedly assaulted him at Pangani police station.
Now, residents of Nairobi have asked the government to provide a permanent solution to the transportation problem, leaning more towards government-owned and run buses to carve out the matatu industry. They say that the NYS buses the government had teased about will help maintain the high standards of transportation and protect the average Kenyan from extortion through high bus fares. This even as drivers and conductors lament the high fines being charged in court over minor traffic offences, leading them to believe that the enforcement of the Michuki rules could be a ploy for the government to increase revenue.
Normally we pay 20 shillings or 30 on Gong Road. Today they are charging 180 shillings. Like for now they are saying 80. We are stranded.
Maza is something like 12,500. Ikitoa hizo deduction na serikali nitabaki kitu kama 17. Hebu niambie 17 nitoa 150. Ikienda for 1 week, that's how much. Watoto watakula.
Uta reduce aje inaitwaje train to 30 bob. And there are some people kutoka hapa lazima akifika town lazima anaenda mahali pengine destination yake ijafika na aconsider hata kama wamereduce huko kwingine tutasaidika aje.
The government wants to help us. They should bring those buses. NYS. We are here. The salary is the same.
Right. You also need to see what is on the page of the Business Daily. This is in light to just maybe also mainstreaming the matatu sector. Uber planning rollout of matatus in Nairobi is another story there. You can see. So will that also bring a discernible difference as far as transport is concerned if maybe they come in? And will there be rejection? We've seen also before what really happens when Uber are trying to maybe crack their way into the market as well. A lot of preventions, barriers, of course, being raised. If Uber roll out matatus in Nairobi, how will that be? Right? Let's just begin with you, Patrick.
I think it's a great experiment.
Yes.
One of the things that is causing congestion in this town is the fact that you find matatus parked on the side of a road, waiting for passengers for a long time.
Yes.
And they just keep, amassing in one place, and that reduces the number of lanes. If you have an app that allows you to book a seat on a matatu, you can see when it's coming.
Yeah.
So effectively, it stops basically to pick up a passenger at a given spot, and those can be actually organized into the into bus stops and places like that.
Yes.
So the matatu will keep moving; it won't stop waiting for passengers. That is actually a very positive way of reducing congestion in town. But also it means that I am certain when I arrive somewhere, I've got a seat and I go. So I can much better plan my movements rather than going to GPO and waiting there for the right matatu to come. And then hopefully I will get a seat and sort of without having to barge through a whole large number of people. I think it will be a good challenge to a matatu industry here.
A salutary effort from Uber. We saw also the chaos that was there before with the taxi here in the country, charging exorbitant prices, not metered. But now we can see there's control of that. Do you think there's going to be that particular pushback from also the matatu sectors?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes. Innovation has its pushback, especially when you're getting into a very well-established industry in a place.
Yes.
So if somebody coming in with an innovation in the matatu industry, they're going to get a pushback. Right, that's for certain, but I think with people who are in cutting edge, cutting-edge innovation,
yes,
they'll reinvent themselves and find their way through.
Right.
I think they're going to actually have a very positive impact on the matatu business, because they will be challenged. They'll push back and they'll push back, but then they'll find that the public are the ones who are going to adopt that technology and work with it because it makes sense, and then they just have to conform.
Thank you. Let's hear from Gabriel Negatu before you come to His Excellency. We don't know. Ethiopia is always fast out of the gate when it comes to these things, right? Especially mainstreaming the financial sector. I don't know if they've gone also fast out of the gate when it comes to Uber now or the matatus. How do they operate in Ethiopia? You can give us just a glimpse of that as well.
Just before we, thanks, Debarl, just before we go to Ethiopia, let me just say, Uber, Taxify, these are all what you call disruptive technologies.
Yes, yes.
So you cannot be in a disruptive space and then resist others from disrupting you.
I mean, that's the name of the game. You are constantly being disrupted and you are disrupting others. So in terms of platform for a shared ride and reducing congestion, I think what they're doing is right. In Ethiopia, Uber is not there.
Uber is not there
Uber
yet.
is not there yet, but there is a similar software that's been developed. It's called Ride, and it works exactly like Uber, but it's a homegrown product, and it's operating, and its ridership is going up significantly. So because payment systems in Ethiopia are not as developed as it is here in Kenya, where you can pay payment platforms, Uber hasn't entered, but it's just as well because a local homegrown solution is developed. In fact, it's a colleague who used to be based in Nairobi who's moved back and is working with other people to make that happen in Ethiopia. So it's happening, it's disruptive. The local taxis don't like it, but again, this is a disruptive technology, so over time the consumers will adapt to it.
All right, let's hear from Governor.
Well, exactly, as Gabriel is telling you. And you see, many sector or many business models are based on an inefficient organization.
Yes.
And that was exactly the case for taxis, because you see, a taxi will drop you, say you want to go to Thika, it takes you to Thika, and then it has nothing to do, and the car has to come back to base, which was a very inefficient way to work. So, and you recall, not so long ago, we used to have scheduled public transport. So you knew, as a citizen, as a worker, you knew what time bus number 23 would pick you up from University Way to go home. And when that collapsed, then we have a very inefficient way of working and moving around. So you, as a person, say, trying to come to the CBD or to your work in industrial area or whatever, when you get out of your house, you can't know how long it will take you to find a matatu or a bus, how long the wait will be. So it's a very inefficient way of working. So this is fantastic. I think this is the kind of thing and it should be happening in Nairobi, because Nairobi, or Kenya really, is a hub for innovation, for mobile applications. So it's a fantastic thing, and we welcome it.
All right. And of course, I think that also may help mainstream maybe the matatu sector with the standard operating procedures.
Absolutely.
The helter-skelter they've been running on also can be now streamlined. Let's hear from Sanchen Goodka this morning. Good to have you. Right.
Thank you, Debarl.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your comments on that? What do you think?
I think both of them actually have surge pricing. So that's something they have in common. So, for example, when it rains, matatus increase their pricing, or if there's a shortage, there's also a price increase and so on. Uber also has the same. So if they see increased traffic on the roads and so on, or increased demand, they have surge pricing as well. So there will be a bit of commonality. However, I again, like the other panelists, I would welcome Uber's entry. Yes.
Well, we wonder what really happens to our roads when it rains. Do they contract so that now there's so much traffic? I mean, the waters actually, because they hike, and you can see also when they're trying to mainstream also Michuki rules as well. People are paying even 200% more on, of course, the fares, but we pray for better. But this also will interest you also, Governor, so because the county assembly members have revived calls for a salary increment to enable them perform their job well. The MCA say the current pay is not equal to their responsibilities, as most of them have been forced to finance their work from private earnings. Let's just hear what they had to say on this as well, right? This is a story about the MCAs and, of course, their salary increase as well. So is there any leak of sense on this? Let's hear.
What the society expects of the honorable members is completely different what the law says they should do. Let me tell you why. Can we accept in principle the MCA is the only elected leader sitting with the people every single day? Can we judge our MCAs based on their constitutional roles rather than their ability to give in harambes, to participate in church thanksgiving, to participate? That is a question to the society.
You post that plan. Kwanza kesi kama vijana hatuna kazi, serikali inafaa tushughulikie vile tunazopata kazi. Hata kama labda hiyo pesa wanataka waongezewe, labda serikali ichukue hiyo token iongeze kwa youth fund. Vijana hatuna kazi. Sasa sijui wanataka tuibe. Wakiongezwa mshahara, hiyo mshahara wanapeleka wapi? Hiyo mshahara wanapewa igopunguzwe, vijana wa employeewe bwana. Vijana wapate kazi.
MCA yule anataka aongezwe pesa. Mazejo aende kwa walime. Kwa nini? Hakuna kitu wanasaidia hao majamaa.
Reactions there from Kenyans, and of course we had also from some of the county assembly speakers as well. But your reactions, Bwana Governor, do you think this is really called for?
Well, first of all, if you listen to what the speaker is saying, there is a big point about how we as society relate to our elected leaders in terms of expectations for Harambes, expectations for, the elected leader is seen as the development vehicle himself or herself. And I think as a nation we need to get out of it. For instance, members of county assemblies, they have 3 roles. Role number 1 is to make law for their county. Role number 2 is oversight. So the MCAs are expected, for instance, and I've been on record on this before, MCAs are expected to look at the audited accounts of that county to see whether the executive is in fact doing what they should be doing in terms of financial management. So if I hear the speaker correctly, members are complaining that the citizens expect from them a constant daily Harambee. And Harambee culture has come back very, very strongly over the last several years. And you recall going back 10 years ago, when in fact the National Assembly had passed a law to say that state officers or public officers should not, and public offices should not be used because Harambees become a conduit for corruption.
Yes.
You can't tell when you go into a public officer's office and you are looking for a service and they tell you contribute to this Harambee. You have no way of telling whether actually that officer will take that money to the Harambee that they're so saying. So it's a very murky area. Now, having said that, I think also members should be careful, because the truth of the matter is that all counties, certainly my county, but I think it is true of all counties, we are struggling with payroll. Just last year, in my own county, the collective bargaining agreements in the health sector for doctors, for nurses, for clinical officers and so on, increased my payroll by 50 million per month. Meaning 600 million additional cost of payroll. So it's a very serious issue, and I would hope that members also tread carefully. But their point that the expectation for them to be the development agent, for them to be able to pay for Harambee, for hospital bills, for tuition fees, for the pastor's house, for the pastor's car, it's unreasonable. Yeah.
All right. What do you think, Patrick, about you think this is really called for?
I think I agree with His Excellency here. Kenyans need to change. That's the bottom line. We have got this dependency culture whereby we expect somebody else to do things for us, and especially at the grassroots. But that dependency culture has come for a reason. A lot of the services that people should be getting are not available. So things like health, education, and all the rest of it, which is basically something that the government, at whatever level, should be providing, has basically been eroded over time. And we will go back to the fact that the efficiency of spending the money from the exchequer is very, very low. And because of that, general services are not available, so people will look wherever they can. And unemployment, which has risen, means that even the basic services somebody should be getting, even if they're unemployed, is not available. So people look to the easiest source of money, which is basically the elected officials.
Yes.
But unfortunately, the elected officials themselves make promises during the campaign. So they're raising expectations at that time. Governor, so, at that time there's also promises and everything else. So people actually call on that promise. I mean, you said, fine, this is what you said, you're going to bring development, you're going to bring this, so bring it. right? And so you're caught between a rock and a hard place. You know, you need to get these people to elect you. Once you're elected, you all of a sudden you find that the money that you thought was there isn't there. And the only way you think you can do it is by raising your own salary and forcing somebody else to provide for it, right? Whereas, in fact, what you should be doing is to look at how you can channel the money out for development.
For development, right? Yes. And of course, even raising these particular monies as well, because counties, for the longest time, they've been dependent on the national, government to dole out their money. And I think this is just for the moment. There should be a way of generating revenues also from the counties as well. But let's just hear from Gabriel Negato on this. With a bloated wage bill, I think this is not, it's very ill time to actually ask for this money.
I think we are going through the transition from centralized to a devolved government, and these are some of the teething problems that you're going to be facing.
You think still have
in a few years?
Yeah. These 10 years down the line.
No, but in terms of raising domestic revenue, local revenue, we're still very far, and I will still rely, as Patrick said, on the national government to dole out this. There's a federal formula or national formula for sharing this, but the bottom line is we're not raising enough money locally. And some of this cost sharing of increase in wages and so on should be or could be handled if you had a reasonable basis for wage increases at the local level. Right now, everything goes back to the national government, and as long as you do that, there will always be a tussle between the recurrent budget, wages and houses for the priest, whatever, and the development budget. And it's very easy, very tempting to keep dipping into the development budget and pay people, so at the end you have people who are well paid and no roads and schools and clinics to speak of. So it's still a balancing act between these two.
Right. You also hold with this view, with a bloated wage bill?
Pretty much. In fact, in this age of austerity, everyone's in a belt-tightening mode in the country. I think it's anomalous really for the MCAs to ask for a substantial pay increase at this point in time. The country cannot afford it, the devolved government cannot really afford it, and the real issue in this economy right now is the lack of spending power. There are so many fewer shillings in the consumer pockets that it is hurting the economy very, very seriously at the moment. Consumption's dipping, and we see a real danger of some form of stagnation coming in, which is pretty worrying. Yeah.
All right. And I think of, yes, Patrick, you have something to say?
I just think the austerity measures that have been talked about have been tried, and they've only run for a few months and then it stopped. We need to start there. Look at when our current president was a minister of finance and said, fine, we're going to go for passats only in government. What happened? Right? We are all back to sort of the same big vehicles with chase cars and everything else, Governor.
But it wasn't the first time.
I know.
It wasn't the first time. When Mzee Nyachai was finance minister, I mean, a similar austerity measure that, you know, so we go, look, you are right, Patrick, that as society, we need to reform ourselves. Now, when say a minister or a governor shows up in a small Toyota, the people frown on him. That's what kind of governor is this? You know, so we have to be willing to live up to what we say we want.
Right.
Passat is not so small.
It was the first step down. Much lower.
Right. But of course, also we need to also salute you, because this is what is on the front page of the Business Daily. Having ways, innovative ways of actually raising revenue for the counties as well. And this is where we applaud you, the governor of Laikipia. You can see a sidebar story. Laikipia set to float first 5 billion shillings county bond, it says. Laikipia County is on course to making history with the proposed sale of 5 billion shillings infrastructure bond to bridge a financing deficit. If successful, the bond, which is to be sold through the National Treasury, will make Laikipia the first devolved unit to raise money from the capital markets. Let's just hear straight from the horse's mouth instead of just reading the rest. But you should buy the Business Daily. I'm not saying that.
Well, thank you, Debarl. You know, the reason I laughed is because of that sentence, to be sold through the National Treasury. I mean, that's not quite accurate. I mean, the bond is sold in the market as a normal bond, but the point is, of course, that the way counties borrow involves the National Treasury providing a level of comfort. It involves the Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Forum to approve this borrowing. So that was the reason for the laughter. But the background of this, just yesterday, we as a county became the first county to publicly release our financials. That typically counties have been, if you will, on the back foot, people wanting to see what are your financials, and then the county perhaps not being forthcoming. And yesterday we made history of the first county to publicly release our audited accounts, but also our unaudited 2017-2018, which themselves are under audit as we speak. Because we do want to prove the case that nothing says that public sector cannot have good financials and financial reporting that is timely. Today, in fact, we are in the FIRE Awards. Our accounts are part of the FIRE Awards today, and we have great expectations. Now, we do expect in the approximate 12-month period to go to the market, to look for monies, to do specific roads and specific bulk water storage facilities. And, you know, when you think about counties, and I'm glad Gabriel is here, because, look, counties are a bigger entity than municipalities. And you know, traditionally, municipalities have been able to issue municipal bonds, provided that the municipality is well run and that we can see, you know, there is proper and prudent financial management. And counties are actually a bigger entity than municipalities. And therefore, counties ought to be seen as a better bet from a securities point of view. And you will also know that right now in the market is a bit hungry for bonds other than national government bonds. And the corporate bond sector is practically, you know, is limping at the moment because of certain things that has happened in last year and the year before. So the market is hungry for bonds. And I think that this is a fantastic opportunity for counties, and certainly Laikipia County wants to be out in the market. And we know that Kenyans themselves are looking to us to have creative, market-based ways of financing critical pieces of infrastructure. In a more immediate term, this December, as you know, the pooled water bond is going to go on the market, and my water company, our water company in Nyanyuki, is part of that, where we are going to the market as a group of certain utilities to raise monies to improve the provision of water. In the sort of also immediate term, meaning like 4 or 5 months, we'll also be back in the market looking for a PPP partner to build the Nyanyuki bulk water project. So build a dam, expand the treatment works, expand the distribution network, and so on, and recoup that investment from the tariff of selling the water. And we are just about, jointly with the National Treasury, to get a transaction advisor to help this transaction come on stream. So I think what the big story is that counties are stepping up as well-run institutions interested to participate in the market, and we hope that the market is also looking to us for those opportunities.
All right. So you actually want us to correct it that yes, it's not being sold through the National Treasury.
No, it's not through the National Treasury.
Of course.
But obviously the National Treasury, even the National Treasury itself, when it sells the bond, when government...
You put it out in the market.
You put it out in the market. But it's a minor flaw.
But a very innovative way of actually coming up with a way of raising, you know, revenue for the counties as well. Instead of, this is what I was saying, we are not just having a myopic view, always waiting or with our appeal in hand from the government, give us. You need to be creative on how you can raise this revenue. Let's just hear from Gabriel Negatu.
Yeah, I think what the governor is doing is very commendable. And where they're getting it right is, first they're cleaning their house financially.
Yes.
They're making themselves attractive to the market. There are counties who could float a bond and no one would even take a second look at it. But he's done the right thing. He's cleaned his books. As you say, the first county to open his books for audit. Now the market's demand is quite high, and this approach of financing development through bonds clearly is a cheaper way of doing it than if you have to go to the bank to borrow money. For investors, this is attractive because there's no tax on it. Depending, I don't know what the tenure is going to be on this thing. I think it's still being worked out, but it's a very good approach. It's a very innovative approach. It's part of what I said earlier about raising local revenue. You know, you cannot continue to just rely on the national treasury. You have to be a bit more innovative, a bit more creative, work with the treasury. The treasury will give the overall comfort because it affects the macro stability of the country when counties borrow, but especially from outside. But local borrowing should go very well, and just commend you for it.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe the World Bank should come up also maybe with the counties, ease of doing business index for just
so first of all, it is there.
It is there.
It is there.
Okay.
Firstly, they compared 10 counties.
Yes.
And that is being expanded. In addition, the bank and the CRA, the World Bank and the Commission for Revenue Allocation, do in fact have a program to look at the creditworthiness of counties. Yeah, so they are in fact doing, and these are the correct moves. And we ourselves, in fact, as a county, expect to be rated. We are shopping for a credit rating agency to look at how creditworthy are we as a county.
Right, and of course that also is a good spawning ground maybe for the manufacturers. Goodka, you can actually even weigh on this. If we have maybe the counties are opening up their books for auditing, and we have clean, of course, bill of health as far as financial statement is concerned. This is, of course, investment confidence that will come maybe from even the investors themselves. You can tell us more about that.
Absolutely. I think the credibility of the county as an investment destination is key. To this, I applaud the governor's efforts in making Laikipia County accountable, transparent, and trying to make it an attractive investment decision. Couple of words of caution on this. Infrastructure, whilst it's necessary, cannot give you the returns very, very quickly. So I guess there has to be some element of also probably giving possibly some financial incentives or investment, industrial park incentives and so on to attract investors into the county. The second part of this is a lot of the counties have relied on traditional what we call revenue raising mechanisms, whereby they put in charges to even move goods within the county, and if goods are passing through the counties. This actually raises the cost of doing business, and I think there is a bill in Parliament to try and curtail to ensure that the revenue sharing mechanism is fair, and counties don't just impose their own set of regulations and charges to make the cost of doing business very, very high for everyone.
And is that really predicated on the Division of Revenue Bill? What he's really talking about? Right.
Well,
could we take a short break? When we circle back, of course, we continue with you, Patrick, and we look keenly on that as well. It's 7 on the nose. We want to take a station break right now. And when we come back, of course, we continue with the discussion, looking at the state of the economy right now, what is happening. We'll be looking also at the cane farmers and some of the sugar industries that the government is saying should be, if they're going to collapse, why can't we just shut them once and for all? So what does this really portend for the manufacturing sector as well? Petroleum is up. How does that affect you this morning? Right, is up by 2 shillings and 30 cents up. So be aware, of course, as you're going to fuel this morning in at the pump, as they always say. Right, we take a short break right now. When we circle back, we continue with more. Right, welcome back. You're watching In the Market here on AM Live, where today we take a state of the economy, just a panoramic view of how the economy is performing this morning. And I'm holding court this morning with Patrick Obath, who is the Vice President of KEPSA Foundation, also a board member of International Chamber of Commerce. We do have with us as well the Governor of Laikipia, His Excellency Governor Nderitu Murithi. We do have also the Director General of World Bank, not World Bank, but the African Development Bank. This is Gabriel Nagatu. Also, we have the Chairman of Kenya Association of Manufacturers. This is Sanchen Gudka. We continue with the conversation. I think we were to continue with Patrick Obath before we took a short break, right? Patrick, I hope you've not lost your track of thought so that we can also finish on that and go full steam ahead with other stories.
No, my GPS has rerouted, so I'm back on track now. So. But I was going to come from the point of view of the transparency aspect. The fact that the county has gone ahead to sort of clean up its finances, put it in the public, right, and attracted financing, or we're going to attract financing through that process, I think that is commendable. But I think in the long term, right, the belief of the electorate in the county government will also go up, because once that happens and then that money is spent on projects, because already they say what they want to spend it on.
Yes.
When that hits the road and the people begin to see that money was raised, it's now being used on infrastructure, then effectively that whole, the belief that the county government is actually doing what it was elected to do, I think is a better long-term outcome of a very simple thing like going to use the bond mechanism, which relies on other people saying, giving you a tick. You're not sort of doing it yourself, right? So by doing that is a clever way, Governor, of getting trust.
Indeed.
Right? And once there is trust, then things will follow, right? And then with the other projects that I've heard the governor talking about in the area, once trust is there, then also investment will begin to come in into the county. So again, I think the one message that needs to come out of what is happening in Laikipia is that when you talk about investments in this particular kind of, in infrastructure and so forth, the payback of that is going to be quite some time down the line, right? So you have to borrow in a clever way that allows you to have that. So the county residents should not expect that all of a sudden Laikipia is going to be sort of, up and bouncing within the next 5 years. This is going to be a process that slowly grows the economy, and the better the infrastructure, the faster that growth will begin to come in. So I think the messaging around this should also be now beginning to educate the public around prudent fiscal management, right? And also the accountability and also the expectations in the long term. So I think this is just the beginning of a long journey, Governor, and I think it's a great way of starting it, just by building that openness in terms of saying we are an open county government and we are going to do everything out, and we're going to get a third party to give us the tick, not ourselves.
So management of expectation is very key, because we can come out with this bond, but people will expect to see the fruits tomorrow.
Absolutely.
So how have you planned on how to manage expectation? Because we still have the same I think the blowbacks of SGR that we do right now. People were not really prepared to how to manage this expectation. We thought like, wow, it would just be quick off the mark, and at a snap of a finger we'll see the benefits of SGR. So how do you plan this?
The positive side of expectations, Debarl, is that in fact the economy itself does run on expectations. When consumers are confident about the future, they spend more. When businesses are confident about the future, they invest. So there is, in real sense, a positive side to high expectations and positive expectations about the future. But I absolutely agree with Patrick that the real proof is in continued prudent management of our finances and of the things that we're doing. And we welcome the market to look at what we're doing. For instance, Debarl, 68%, nearly 70% of our supplier invoices are settled within 60 days. Within 60 days. So the general view that counties don't pay is not true. 68% of our invoices are settled within 60 days. And you can see it with the renewed appetite by suppliers and contractors taking interest in the business that we put out there. When we put a tender, we are seeing a lot more interest. People wanting to do business with us because they can see that in fact we are living up to what we say. Also, on a point of view, on the investment side, some global brands are in fact in Laikipia.
Yes.
You might be surprised to learn Microsoft launched Windows 10 from Nanyuki, some many months back. And that is because they are invested in a business called Mawingu, which is sort of uses TV white space to deliver internet to households. You would be surprised, global names like Princeton and the Smithsonian are invested in a research center inside Laikipia called Mpala. So Laikipia is attracting global companies, is attracting, as I was just saying, Vivo is a major investor in Nanyuki with a fairly nearly 3 billion investment in a distribution facility for fuel. So we are attracting significant investments, and we will continue, more to come.
All right.
Let me just ask Governor, how many investment conferences has Laikipia had?
None.
Exactly.
None.
That is, I was hoping you was going to say that because I've not seen any, and all this investment is happening. Yes. How many other counties have had countless investment conferences and nothing is happening?
Some of the counties actually have forged investment conferences. We know of a county that, yes, the governor was actually seeking some 13 million shillings for an investment conference that was not there. This was flagged by a bank, right? And so even an MC was to be paid 800,000 shillings. So this MC was calling out on governor on radio, hey, please, can you give me this money? Because there was no investment conference. And this governor is actually, forging that there was an investment conference. But it brings to light also, Patrick, what you're really saying, because we've had Makueni with the universal healthcare. Now people will be streaming to Laikipia on how actually they are putting in place now the county bond. They want to learn about it. They'll come in the name of benchmarking. This benchmarking, Gabriel, you need to talk about it because this is where you need a lot of money.
We welcome visitors.
You welcome.
We welcome visitors in Laikipia. And as a matter of fact, Debarl, by the way, when you want to visit Laikipia, just download an app called Destination Laikipia. It's free on Play Store. You go on Play Store, you put it on your phone, and it helps you to book hotels, to know where you're going in Laikipia.
Thank you.
Destination Laikipia. So we welcome visitors.
Governor,
but on a more serious note.
But Governor, you'll pay for this now show, so that now you can actually talk about Laikipia County to the fullest extent. Right? All right. Let's hear from Gabriel.
Benchmarking to Laikipia is much more affordable than benchmarking to Brazil.
Correct.
So because that seems to be the popular thing. But I think the key message, and Patrick talked about trust here, people trusting and so on. The most important trust here is the trust of the market. Indeed. And the market will bear out what the governor is saying. If when they float this bond, it's oversubscribed and the tenure is good and the coupon and so on, then clearly the market is showing its trust. Once you establish that, everything else will follow. So focus on ensuring the market signals a trust on Laikipia, on the management of the economy, on the management of the finances, on the use of the revenue, then everything else will follow.
Let's hear from Sanjay.
Yeah. Well, I think I applaud the governor's initiative to pay suppliers on time. Because we have a fundamental disease in this country of paying late. Private sector pays late, government pays late, national government pays late, and county governments pay very late. So we have this whole culture whereby the velocity of money through the economy is so slow. The money turnover is just too slow. And if governments and private sector start paying each other faster, you'll see a lot more movement in the economy, the liquidity crisis in the economy reducing, and we do need to do something about it. A 60-day payment time for about 60 to 70% of your invoices is pretty good, considering the national debtor days on average for industry at the moment is probably 105, 120 days. That means you can only turn over your money 3 times a year, which is absolutely crazy. And it's not sustainable.
Maybe also piggybacking on this particular statement by Sanchem, I think there is a regulatory framework that they were coming. Is it a bill that yes, the county should be mandated to actually pay within stipulated, was it 90 days or 60 days? I think there was a sort of a bill that was being raised in the National Assembly. I cannot actually remember the specific bill. But as we're winding up on that, I think, yeah, that is a good salutary effort that should be put forth, making sure that suppliers are paid on time, because for the longest time, people, they've been listed by the Credit Reference Bureau because they're not really, servicing their debts or servicing their loans. And this has really made some of the small, medium enterprises really suffer in this country. The closure of them that we're given to understand for at least 2 million of them have closed in the last 5 years.
Right. I think that the bill has come primarily from the retail sector because of the way the supermarkets were. The name of the bill? The name, but okay. I know it has come.
It's not a
it's
bill.
Not passed.
It's not a bill. It's actually right now regulations. My worry is when you start having soft touch regulation on a hardcore matter like payments, it can, people like the retailers have taken advantage of it. What we do need to do is probably strengthen that mechanism and ensure penalties, etc., are in place.
Thank you.
For late payment.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Right. Let's move on and see also what is on front page of the Business Daily. Consumers will be compelled now to dig deeper into their pockets following review of prices for petroleum products. A statement from the Energy Regulatory Commission shows that the maximum price for a litre of super diesel and kerosene have all been reviewed upwards by 2 shillings and 38 cents, 3 shillings and 11 cents and 2 shillings and 99 cents respectively. In Nairobi County, a litre of petrol sell at a maximum price of 118 shillings and 11 cents, while that of diesel and kerosene will retail at a maximum of 112 shillings and 83 cents and 11 shillings and 83 cents respectively. This increase has been attributed to, of course, what is happening right now, the rise in the average landed cost for petroleum products. Let's just begin with you, Patrick, because I know this is also right up your alley as well. Just the other day, well, it was reconfigured. There was that debate about VAT and everyone was happy. They're telling us, no, it is actually not 116. Now we see this has actually taken an upward tick as well. Where are we headed? Everyone is blaming it on also Jamal Khashoggi, the Saudi Arabia, US row as well. Them also, well, the oil prices has been affected, but crude oil, as we've seen also from the Washington Post, has also been affected.
I think the world has moved from when OPEC used to control the market and they could actually dictate which direction the price of crude was going. And in the old days, if this embargoes on Iran would have happened, being a large producer, automatically the world would have responded by the prices shooting up, because that would have taken out a very large proportion of the production in the world. But now, because there are a lot of alternative sources, and I was saying earlier on, the US is becoming a major exporter of crude, which has happened only within the last 5 to 7 years. Since fracking became a standard thing, all of a sudden the US is becoming a major exporter of crude and gas as well. Whereas before, they were a net importer. And because of that alone, any statement by a US president would cause the world's crude prices to shake around. Now it doesn't. So what you're seeing is just that crude oil as a commodity, and oil as a commodity, is responding to market forces, not politics, which is where it used to be before.
Not politics.
Right? Not politics anymore. Because before, a political statement from an oil-producing area or a major oil consumer would actually be the one that would be changing the price. So what is happening here is you're seeing that the price of crude went up and it's going down. It's being moderated purely by the opportunity for new fields to come on board in the US, and it goes up whenever there's a small statement like Iran. It went up and then it's gone down again because the market has responded to the rise in price. So it is a very well sort of now, it's fluctuating extremely well. Now, one of the things about oil in this world is that most people hedge. So they trade on futures a lot of the times.
Yes.
And the future trading is probably the strongest trading in oil at the moment.
Yes.
So what you're seeing in Kenya at the moment, the prices are going down in the world and the prices are going up in Kenya. we are seeing the impact of having the price based on a futures price. And that, I think, is a good mechanism for this country, because there is almost certainty in the direction of price, and it is very well controlled. When I was a CEO in the business, there was no price control, so I would be waking up this morning with a problem, because all the media would actually be at my doorstep saying, you know, why are you increasing prices as CEO? That has now passed to a regulatory commission with a very good formula. So even with the VAT coming in and everything else, that was a single jump.
Yes.
After that, the market fundamentals are just going to drive it.
Right. But
so yeah, we will have it at 118 shillings, coming down. You know, by next month, I expect it's going to go down, and the month after that, it will go even further down.
Okay. Now, this story also, the Wall Street Journal, that oil prices plunge as oversupply worries prompt steepest fall share. Since 2015, crude's decline comes as U.S. production has soared, and now investors are rapidly scaling back their bullish bets in favor of bearish ones. You can shed light on this as well. What is happening in the international market, and how is it also going to bear, how are we going to bear the brunt of this?
I think the international market, if you're looking at the consumption globally, the global consumption is between about 1 to 1.5 million barrels per day, tons per day, sorry. So Kenya is a very, very small player in that, right? So the drivers are beyond us. The drivers are the Middle East, the United States,
yes,
and some parts of the Far East. Those are the drivers of fuel. The impact of these plays is that not just for Kenya, but for most of Africa, the new oil that is being discovered in Africa is going to find it a little bit more difficult to go to market. First of all, the reserves that are there in places like Uganda, in Kenya, you're finding the gas in Mozambique, and you're finding the sort of the exploration that is happening, the production in Sudan, and so forth. All that, the economics of bringing that to market or going to the market is going to become extremely complicated for the investors there. And with these fluctuating prices now, okay, they fluctuated not as much as before, means that people have to decide at what point in the cycle they're going to invest. And because this has become a sort of a more freely traded commodity oil, you will find that like most other commodities, you have a commodity cycle. There's a time when on average it's going up, and then you find on average it goes down. And most people, when they're investing in infrastructure, they invest at the bottom of the curve for a good reason. At that point in time, if you're talking about investment, there's no work for a lot of contractors and everything else, and that's the time to invest. So I think the interest for Kenya in terms of the fluctuating prices of crude is at what point are we going to find the Talos of this world and these other organizations choosing to invest in infrastructure, because they will need a point where they can get the lowest cost of investment. And that, I think, is probably what is going to hit us much bigger rather than the day-to-day consumption.
All right.
Yeah. I think what appears to be a if you look at the graph,
yes,
you see the prices today reflect stocks from 3 months ago.
Right.
So if you look at the Wall Street Journal graph, you will see that you will see the peak. So you can see there in October.
Yes.
The peak in October. Yeah. So the prices that are the pump prices today in Kenya, they reflect or are based on the cost of crude from 3 months back.
Yes.
And that is why there's a little bit. So although the price of crude has slumped over the last several days,
yes,
that effect will not be felt until probably into January. So what we would expect is that the next review, and it's a monthly review, the next review, prices should come down, and even the month after that, the prices should come down. Right. So there is a little bit of time lag that is there on the Kenyan side.
I think there's one other thing just to add. Crude is a global indicator, but in terms of our actual supplies from Kenya, they do the Abu Dhabi index. ADNOC is where they actually get the finished product, right? Yes. So it is the Middle East has got ADNOC as its basis, and you're talking about imported finished product. So there is a relationship, but not direct, because you may find that the cost of within the Indian Ocean basin because of a glut of supply of a finished product, the price here may be lower than in Europe. And at a certain point in time, like now going into winter, there are certain elements of the barrel that are more expensive in Europe and are very cheap here, and so forth. So there's a little bit of let's treat basing the total price here purely on the crude price. Yeah, there's a little bit of sort of complexities in arriving at the final price in Kenya.
Okay, let's say from Gabriel Nagatu briefly on this.
Yeah, I think oil, more than any other commodity, is perhaps an area where the economic and market fundamentals operate at will. You know, the old days of OPEC managing this, we've seen the impact, but now it's very much driven by market. And if you look at the bottom, the lower graph, which shows you the ratio between bullish bets and bearish bets, it pretty much follows where except towards the October, November, where the prices are high, investment comes in and so on. And then when prices go down, of course, they pull back. So it's very much controlled by market forces. And what you see, as everyone said, what you see at the pump price today is the price of 2-3 months ago, and then there's a lag time between when it was purchased and when it hit the pump, 2 months or so. So going forward, you will see, of course, people will tell you they never see it come down.
They never see it come
down. They never see it come down. Even when the global prices are down, 2 months later it will still be going up. So
I think the better person will tell us is Sanchen. They never see it coming down.
They never see it come down. The industry never see it. So please.
I think it's a bit like power costs. But coming on to Kenya's opportunity on this, how do we commercialize $100,000 a barrel a day exports? How do we build a proper hydrocarbon industry around this? How can we move up the value chain? So, for example, probably become one of Africa's leading producers of lubricants and so on. And what do we need to do? So, what do we need to capture the opportunities? So, I guess my question to Patrick is, what do we need to do to accelerate the commercialization process?
I think that question is one that needs very wide discussion. In the scheme of things, if you're going to do value addition, the scale at which it becomes economically viable is big. So if you're talking about value addition in Kenya or in East Africa, you would need the total production that Kenya is putting together, what is there in South Sudan, what is projected in Uganda as an entry point, not as, whatever, because to have a commercially viable petrochemical complex, the entry point at this point in time is a processing facility of about 500,000 to 600,000 barrels per day. Kenya at peak is currently projected at 200,000 barrels a day. So at 600,000 barrels a day is when you actually have an entry point investment. And if the governments of East Africa can come together and put together a single large value addition facility, right, and take out nationalism, which is the biggest problem that is playing around here. The impact of that would be actually manifold. The first thing is that industry, that large complex, would give a lot of raw material for secondary manufacturing within the region. Right. So you'll get textile inputs, you'll get fertilizer, you get a whole host of stuff coming out. Crude oil, the value is not in the petrol we use. That is actually a byproduct that is actually quite low, or very low value. It is further up the chain that we get the value. So a 600,000 barrel a day petrochemical complex will spawn a whole series of industries. It can be used as well. Instead of saying that our people will be employed in that place, it becomes a training ground for technologists who can then be absorbed in the economy on the different industries that will be spawned by that particular one. So it does not need to be resident in Kenya for it to sort of work for Kenya only. It can work for Uganda, Tanzania, wherever it is, by producing people for those countries to actually manage the the new industries that come up.
But there's tremendous opportunities for import substitution.
Exactly.
For many industries. Actually.
So coming to that one, I mean, you look at our neighbors who are talking about a 30,000 to 40,000 barrel a day refinery. That is a joke, as far as I'm concerned. It's basically national pride coming in, put something in, and what you're doing effectively is give us some hope. Seriously, I mean, let us be realistic. Right? The hope is there, but let us actually be bold and bullish and do the right thing.
You know what, Patrick? Even one of those. Even the Bible says, "Hope deferred makes the heart sick." Not deferred.
No. I think the hope there is that it is better to sell it and subsidize product coming in, because it's going to be cheaper to bring in a barrel, a liter of super. Right? It is better to sell the crude at that higher price and then subsidize the cost coming in, rather than put in a refinery to make it at a much higher price than you can bring it in.
Thank you. Maybe also, as we're talking about energy, maybe also, Sancheba, you can tell us a bit about what was on the front page, not really on the front page, this was on Monday, tucked away in the Business Daily, that relief as power users get refund for a third time in a row. Electricity consumers will, for the third month in a row, get a refund following a review of the foreign exchange levy on power bills, offering relief for some domestic customers and small businesses that have enjoyed tariff cuts from November the 1st. You can actually bring us to speed as well as far as the manufacturing sector is concerned. Is this happening? Sometimes you can get these things in the dailies, and when it comes to the ground as well, it's a different kettle of fish altogether.
Not so much on the ground for,
so much on the
for commercial and industrial users. However, we are working with the Ministry of Energy, the ERC, and to actually work on incentives for power costs to come down at a base of 9 US cents per kilowatt hour. Everyone's currently paying 16 to 17 all-in cost. We would like an all-in cost of 9 US cents per kilowatt hour, subject to 4 things. Number one, the amount of, there's a weighting index as well, so we worked on a formula with them, on the number of jobs you create. So for example, if my industry creates 5% more jobs, there's a 30% weighting to it in a year. Then in terms of additional investment, so if our business invests by 10% a year, then there's another 20% weighting and so on. So there's quite a lot of, it's a decent formula. We're keeping it, I guess, and that enables industry to get rebates against corporation tax. So that's how effectively the reduction in power will come through. So it won't come through immediately, but it'll come through as a reduction in corporation tax. So we've put forward mechanisms for the actual operationalization of the incentive, as well as how to monitor it going forward as well.
Right, thank you. Well, I need to release Patrick. Of course, we've got a board meeting before you leave. But I've always wondered, why are these board meetings always on Thursdays? Because even I was trying to drag John Gumi here, he's always having a board meeting. Is there any written rule about Thursdays? And with the board meetings at 7?
It is not a question of Thursday, but the change has come. The olden days of board meetings, you used to go and have breakfast, and then you meet for a whole day. Right, so the board meetings used to start nearly at 9 o'clock and you finish at 4.
Wow.
With current governance and sort of efficiencies, a lot of board meetings start at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and then it lasts about an hour, 2 hours, and then you're able to continue your work. So some board members have got other things they do, so they're able to continue during the day. So it's not just Thursday. Generally speaking, early morning these days for a lot of executives, of sort of senior people, early morning is the busiest time of the day, rather than midday and afternoon.
But there's something about even Sunshine has actually been trying to get something, but on Thursday, because this is when we're having the market. You cannot actually have him because board meetings. It is a board meeting. So I wonder.
I think there is because even cabinet meets on Thursday.
Even cabinet meets.
My own country executive committee also meets on Thursday. So I think
There's something about Thursday.
It is that day of the week when there is a lull. You know, Wednesday is a day out, and Friday is the beginning of the weekend, and so forth. Monday and Tuesday, you're still catching up from, you know, you're planning for the week. So Thursday is actually a nice little day in the week when you're
Kenya Association Manufacturers Board meetings take place on the third Thursday every 2 months, and it's usually in the afternoons.
I thought maybe this is a code within the Capital Markets Authority's corporate governance code that now you have to be every Thursday. And I wanted you to actually decode that for us this morning. But nonetheless, thank you so much. I really do appreciate your input this morning. I know you have to go, but I thank you for sacrificing as well and coming through. Thank you, Patrick. Let's just move on, and we continue with these discussions about. So you actually done with that particular relief from, you say on the ground it's not really happening?
We haven't really seen a big impact yet. Power cost is obviously a substantial factor in manufacturers' costs,
yes,
especially for heavy industries like cement, steel, and textile mills and so on, where it can be up to 25% of your total cost.
Yes.
So any competitiveness advantages we can gain from a reduction in power will be tremendous, actually.
Yeah, right.
But I don't think this relief is meant for industry. I think, this is targeting households, small users, I think below 50 kilowatt hour or something like that. In some countries, below a certain level, it's even subsidized to the point where, so in Kenya, what they're doing, and it's the right place to start. These are the people who can least afford expensive power, and you give them the relief. But I think, as my colleague said, the relief for industry is a much more complex, and depending on how much you use, what time of the day you use it, and how. But power is key to competitiveness. So I'm happy to hear that they're having this conversation. And the Regulatory Commission, I'm sure, will find a way to encourage industry by lowering the cost, because overall, power production in Kenya is going. Price of power is going down overall.
The mix of power is changing.
We have about 4 or so different sources of power.
Essentially, we now have 2,600 megawatts as supply. Unfortunately, our peak demand is only about 950. So what we need to do during the day and so on is actually make sure that the other issue is if we have too much capacity as well, that means all that capacity has got to be absorbed by the few people who pay industry and so on. So it may actually make it more expensive. What we do have to do is start retiring some of the PPPs on thermal that we have. We still need, I guess we still need to keep some as protection, but with a mix of power changing from hydro, geothermal, and also possibly imports from Ethiopia of about 400 megawatts, which should come in, plus solar. You mentioned a 40 megawatt solar plant in Laikipia. All this will change, and wind will change the mix of power and bring the cost of power down. So over time, I think we possibly may not need the incentive or this offset against corporation tax, because we will see the cost of power come down over time. But industry needs a spur now to kickstart really.
And still we are off the grid with Laikipia, not really Laikipia, but the Turkana wind power as well.
That's coming on. It's finished now.
It's finished.
It's finished, and the president is supposed to inaugurate the commission, and they're ready to evacuate power. So when that comes online again, that's
the transmission line's done.
Transmission is done. That was the delay.
Yeah.
So that's complete, and happy to say, and we should be getting that power into the system.
That's another 230 megawatts.
Yeah, 300. Okay, close to 300.
But let's say, because I think Laikipia, you own it with the solar farming as well, but we don't seem to really tap from the solar farming, especially from the Turkana region and of course the northern frontier, where we can actually invest heavily on solar farms.
Well, first of all, the advantage of Laikipia is because we are on the equator.
Okay.
So the radiation is better So although northern Kenya you would think, but the number of hours
and the radiation is not carcinogenic in any way. We need to have.
So there is an advantage if we look at it in Laikipia, and as I said, we have one project that is has reached financial close, and is just waiting on a transmission line, which incidentally is financed by our good friend Gabriel in the African Development Bank, and he assures us that it will be completed.
He's very modest about it.
He's very modest. By the way, the African Development Bank has done a great many things for Kenya and for the continent, and I think we should applaud ADB. Including, I keep reminding you, Thika Road was mainly financed by, although it was Chinese contractors, so people assumed that the money came out of China, but it was financed for GOK and African Development Bank.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we have 4 projects. One that has reached financial close, that is just waiting for the transmission line. We have 3 other pipeline projects. One for 40 megawatts and 2 for 10 megawatt each, and we hope to see. But generally, from the point about power, as Gabriel is saying, power is key to competitiveness. I mean, I think we should be pleased that in a period of about 9 years, 8-9 years, we have doubled the production. I tell you, 9 years ago, I went to Singapore as an assistant minister to try and interest Singaporeans.
Benchmarking.
It was not benchmarking. But we went to Singapore. By the way, it did result in a government-to-government arrangement between Singapore and Kenya. But the point I was trying to make is that I'm making this presentation to Singaporean business people, and I'm saying proudly that we have 1350 megawatts installed power. Later on, the chair of the chamber took me aside and said, "Young man, should not use that number again because it's such a small number in the global space of things." And
South Africa 50,000 megawatts.
Exactly, at that time. And remember, we were then talking about Vision 2030. And so when we came back, we started a different conversation. What are the power requirements for Vision 2030? At what, and the guesstimate at that time was for 15,000 megawatts. So, anyway, I'm pleased that we have double capacity, and I think we have to continue if we expect to industrialize and to build up manufacturing. And remember, in the Big Four, the idea of moving manufacturing from contributing nearly 9% of GDP to 15%, I mean, it has significant implications in terms of demand for power. But certainly, it's the right direction to go.
Right, but the beauty of benchmarking. So had he not gone to Singapore, we wouldn't
have that.
For investors. All right. Okay, Kenya's ability to meet China's demand for locally produced products, if Kevin, my cameraman, may just come in forward at least so that I can see, just come forward, is emerging as a point of concern, even as the government steps up measures aimed at widening access to the Chinese market. Kenya has this far signed 3 agreements with China following the inaugural China International Import Expo held early this month in Shanghai to secure preferential treatment for traders targeting the Chinese market, according to the Ministry of Trade and Industry. However, the country could fall short of meeting China's demand for local products owing to low production capacity. In 2017, Kenya's export to China stood at 10 billion shillings compared to imports worth 390 billion shillings from the Asian giant.
This market is huge. So if it's opened up, what we may lack is actually the products to go there. Given the size of our country and the market of 1.3 billion people. So the challenge we need to start now preparing farmers to increase their production to be able to meet the market. We are also working on how we can assist the small scale farmers, small traders to aggregate their products. And we assist them in terms of networking with buyers.
Of course, this trade imbalance has been a very niggling worry for the country. We trade heavily with China, but in terms of us exceedingly benefiting from China, that is a different kettle of fish altogether, Bona Governor. So what do you think about our products? And compared to China, we import a lot, we export very dismal amount.
You know, just 2 days ago, PS for Trade was signing an agreement to so that stevia can be exported to China. I think what we have to do as a country is to continue to look at what can we compete with, and to be able to target, you know, our effort to exporting those things. Now, and you know, I saw a graphic yesterday or the day before, showing that in 1980, most African countries had a higher GDP per capita than China in 1980. So, I mean, we go back to the same old questions. How do we produce for export, deliberately for export? How do we provide the right incentive structure? How do we become competitive? Because remember, when you're competing, for example, with Chinese manufacturers, because of the scale, and it goes back, for instance, to what Patrick was saying here about refining, that you need a certain scale in order to enjoy, as they say, economies of scale. So we do have to be creative. But I think there are certain areas where we already are competitive and we should probably push. For instance, if I look at mobile applications, yes, without a doubt, Kenya is a hotbed of talent in developing mobile applications. And just think about the possibility if you have a piece of software that you're selling in China and you're selling to 1 billion people, it's a very significant market. So I think we have to compete not just in the traditional areas, but we also should be competing on the areas where we have an edge on the technology side.
Right, Gabriel Nagato.
Yeah, you know, Kenya stands to benefit a lot from the relationship with China, if particularly the manufacturing sector. If you start looking into value-add manufacturing, China is known as the factory of the world. Efficient, reasonably efficient, modern equipment, what. Now, for Kenya to break into this market and be competitive, you really have to focus on the few items where we have some comparative advantage. Agriculture is clearly one of them, but not in raw material forms, but you know, value-added agriculture. But at the same time, we have to start looking inwards. If you go to the EPZ and look at the manufacturing that's taking place, you realize the efficiency of our manufacturing process is not up to standard. The productivity of labor, Kenyan labor is very high, and you don't get the same level of productivity for the price you're paying. And then power and so on and so forth that we've talked about. So China as a market is there, and we don't even need to go as far as China. Between here and China, there are many other markets. India is a good market. Middle East is a good market. Right. We need to be focusing on our own productivity and so on, and not, yeah.
So, Jen, are we suckling too much from China? Look at all these African leaders. I think are there enough tits?
We're weaning from the same pig or cow, effectively.
That's a pig.
I think
same pig, yeah.
I think looking at what Honorable C.S. Munya was saying, he was concerned about the supply side. Are we able to supply enough to China, for example? And if you look at certain things like if we don't address our post-harvest losses and so on agriculture, we will continue to have supply shortages. Again, coming on, for example, to Laikipia, Governor, does Laikipia grow avocados?
We are indeed.
So my view, again, and on the manufacturing side and value addition side, we continue exporting avocados in raw form. Who is actually setting up a guacamole factory here, or a common user facility, say in Laikipia? If, for example, part of your 5 billion shillings bond you wish to raise was to put up what we call a common user facility, whereby the outgrowers, farmers, everyone can come in, bring their produce, and you actually start selling guacamole. instead of selling avocados at X, you're selling guacamole at 10X. So it's all about enhancing the revenues and so on. Again, on tea, we export only 2.7% of our tea as processed. So we export 450 million kilos a year. Only 2.7% of that is processed. We need to make we need to move up the value chain on tea. We've talked about it for so many years, we haven't done anything.
You haven't done that.
At the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, we've got what we call a think tank, and we've given specific proposals to government how to accelerate the value addition in tea from 2.7% to up to 25% in a very short span of time. What's needed? What do we do to accelerate it? So we're in talks with the Ministry of Industry on how to bring that. It will also create a big job impact, almost 80,000 new jobs into the economy and so on. So there is a lot of potential, but we need to move to the execution stage on some of these areas. Yeah.
Right. Maybe, Bwana Governor, you can comment on that particular editorial cartoon if we can actually have it. Are we suckling too much? We feel like we are suckling too much from China.
Look, Debarl, as we have said on these areas before, the relationships between countries are about self-interest. That China, as an economy, is looking after China. And I don't think we can begrudge China for looking after itself. What we should be asking is what we ourselves are doing. As I said a few minutes ago, just yesterday or the day before, I saw a graphic based on World Bank and IMF data showing that in 1980, except about 4 countries, and that was because we didn't have data on Libya, there was no data on Ethiopia at that time, and a couple of other. But all the other countries had higher GDP per capita than China. So we should not begrudge China. What we should be looking at is doing better ourselves and looking after ourselves. For instance, I would have hoped that countries would move with a lot of speed to ratify the Continental Free Trade Area, because it is good for all of us to have a significant market so that our factories can be competing at the similar scale as, say, Chinese markets. So, China has put itself, by performing, China has put itself in a position where we are all going to China to look for one thing or the other. But the Continental Free Trade Area, in my view, is the way we could reduce our reliance on others by ensuring that we are trading on ourselves. These 390 billion that we are importing from China, imagine then if we were importing from Ethiopia or from Tanzania, what that would be doing to the economy in Tanzania, and vice versa if they themselves were importing from us. So, African leaders should really move with speed to ratify the Continental Free Trade Area.
I couldn't agree more, because up to now only 6 or 7 countries have actually signed up to it. 22 countries need to ratify by 31st December.
By 31st December,
I guess a concerted push is being made by President Kagame to try and get maybe 5 other presidents to go and start visits to each country to accelerate the process. But we've even got, I think, possibly South Africa looking at signing it now. I think Ethiopia is also possibly looking at signing it. Nigeria is coming around to signing it. So I guess it needs a tremendous push between now and 31st December, really. But the opportunities offered up by the African Continental Free Trade Area will be tremendous, because African countries only trade at the moment only about 1.8, 1.9% between themselves, which is too low.
Okay. And
as you noted, there is a meeting next week.
Yeah, if you may just pick up that on this, there's a meeting this weekend actually. Is it
this weekend?
Yeah, this weekend. AU reforms to take center.
Head of states.
Take stage at heads of state meet. This will be in Ethiopia, and we hope, because this was a discussion also in Kigali about the ratification. 2 countries, I think Kenya and Malawi, had ratified. As we said, now that our number has actually also gone up
There's Ghana, Guinea.
By a few, though.
By few, around 12. Around 12. So
no, not even that many.
Not even 12.
No, not even 12.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but we hope now that meeting, or as a chair, President Kagame will push the envelope to encourage more, of course, head of state or countries to actually ratify.
Well, we expect so. I mean, this is like an extraordinary meeting.
Yes.
It,
not a regular.
It's not a regular meeting, and I suspect that that's part of the agenda for it, is to see if we can get more. And look, it's such an opportunity, really.
Yes,
I agree.
It is such a tremendous opportunity that any country should be rushing to ratify.
It's a big opportunity for countries that are prepared. And there are others who simply will not benefit anything from it. But Kenya clearly is one that's well prepared in this region and beyond. And I think once it kicks in, we should be able to see more trade within the region.
Right, thank you. All right, even as we're winding up, maybe Gabriel Nagatu, you can comment, or all of us, we can comment about this editorial cartoon as well. It's still about China. Our loan repayment, it says, policies is very flexible. You repay us with your natural resources, ports, airports, state institutions, etc., etc. Or your yuanization. Adopt our currency for your economy. One line as you're winding up.
Okay, look, again, I stick to my position that we shouldn't bash China. My view is that really it is up to us to up our game from a point of view of innovation, from a point of view of becoming competitive. Now, the using or adopting, for example, the yuan as a reserve currency or things like this. Because look, we use dollar. But the fact of the matter is that we are trading a lot more with China, with India, with Brazil. So there is a case for other currencies other than just the dollar.
Thank you.
Because we are trading. For instance, between us in the East Africa community, why do we need to revert to dollar? Between us and Uganda, or between us and Tanzania. So I think there is a big case there.
Thank you very much. We should have gone the Muammar Gaddafi way of coming up with our own currency.
Currency, no. But again, China bashing, I don't agree with it. In principle, countries pay with what they can. This story of China taking over the port in Sri Lanka and then in Zambia, I think they've taken over the utility now. I don't think China is interested in coming and operating Ketrak or Kenya for us. That can't be the driver for China.
But we have Chinese policemen in Zambia. That is a cause of worry as well.
Well, that's because of the population. If you've got enough Chinese, sooner or later you'll have them in Kenya also, or at least Chinese speaking. You fly on Kenya Airways for Ethiopian Airlines. Now you find Chinese stewardesses.
Thank you. Sanchez, finally, thank you very much.
Essentially, with regard to negotiating deals and the infrastructure deals, I believe our position, our negotiating strength and position would be strengthened significantly by having seasoned merchant banks or investment banks advising the government, because just to ensure we don't have any debilitating clauses, etc., put in on, for example, if we miss a loan repayment, does it allow the other country to come in and take control of our national assets? So I agree with also Negatu that we cannot keep bashing China. China is doing deals in their interest. Kenya should also be doing deals in its interest.
Right. All right, time is slipping away from us, but nonetheless, we want to thank our panelists this morning for a very insightful conversation on the state of economy. Thank you, Sanchen Gudka, who is the chair of Kenya Association of Manufacturers, also Gabriel Nagatu, the Director General of the African Development Bank, His Excellency Governor Nderitu Muriithi, who is the Governor of Laikipia, and also a very accomplished economist as well. We thank you for coming through this morning and for your valid company as well. Thank you also for your rush of tweets. Jackie, let me just read one or two. I'll be remiss if I don't. Abdullah Madambo is asking, how does China manage to control 1 billion people? Why is it so hard in Africa? Ndungu Dan saying the government should chip and solve the problem. Long-term money that could drive the economy is taken by a few cartels. This is on Matatu is weighing on. And Wanjiku Mugane, just wondering, what does the government of Kenya give Chinese investors? Right, that's the probing question as well. But we want to thank you also nonetheless for your contribution this morning. You've been watching In the Market here on AM Live. Living in S is up next. Thank you.